Well, hello and welcome to Bingewatch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwen, writer on What's on TV, TV Times and TV and Satellite Week magazine. And today we're looking at the new releases for the week starting Friday the 24th of March 2023, including the return of gripping Paramount Plus thriller Yellowjackets and the hunt for country music's next star in My Kind of Country on Apple TV+.
And we'll also be checking out the return of Greg Davies' sitcom The Cleaner on BBC iPlayer and remembering the Waco siege in documentary series Waco American Apocalypse on Netflix. But first, Ian, what is in the news, please?
In the Netflix rom-com Mother of the Bride, Brooke Shields will play Lana, who is stunned when she learns her daughter Emma plans to marry the son of her ex. What else is in the news, Hannah?
Jonathan Majors will star in and produce Prime Video's film The Understudy, about a Broadway actor taking desperate measures to get his turn in the spotlight.
Pretty broad selection this week. We've got a documentary, we've got a comedy, we've got a sort of talent show, and we've got a returning drama. So we're going to kick off on Paramount Plus. It's season 2 of Yellowjackets, and here's a clip.
Once upon a time, there was a place called the wilderness. It was beautiful, but it was also violent and misunderstood. And it waited and waited to befriend whoever arrived.
So this arrives on Friday the 24th of March. It's a thriller. There are 10 episodes. I've heard a lot of good things about Yellowjackets, as I'm sure you have, but I didn't see series 1, and I'll start by saying you need to watch it because there's a lot going on, and it also takes place over 2 different timelines with different actors playing the characters in those different periods. So yeah, if you've not seen series 1, go back and watch it. But I managed to get my head around what was going on despite not having seen it. And there is a little catch-up teaser at the beginning of the first episode. So the gist is, for those who've not watched Yellowjackets, the Yellowjackets are an American girls' football squad, and they were in a plane crash in the Canadian wilderness. This happened in 1996, that timeline. And we follow how they survived, basically. They managed to find a cabin, but it became very tribal and savage, and they had to resort to cannibalism, and it was all pretty scary and awful. Some of them kind of unraveled, others died, people were injured. One character particularly came into her own in the wilderness. But anyway, then in 2021, we catch up with them. They were rescued and they came back home, and now we now catch up with them all these years later to see what's happening in their lives, but they're still haunted by the secrets of what happens during that terrible ordeal in the wilderness. So I thought it was fantastic, I must say. It's really, really gripping, fascinating. It's got a terrific cast as well, including Christina Ricci plays the adult version of Misty, who was, I think she was kind of like the kit woman who in the wilderness, her sort of medical expertise suddenly made her, incredibly resourceful, and she felt she had value. Then there's the brilliant Juliette Lewis. She's great in this. She plays the adult Natalie, and at the end of series 1, I gather, from what happens in series 2, she was kidnapped, and you find out the story behind that in at the start of series 2. So there's a great character called Shauna who's very much at the heart of the start of this new season. So I don't want to give too much away for people who are going to go back, but she did something at the end of season 1, and covering it up is at the heart of her storyline at the beginning of season 2, and how that's affecting her relationship with her husband Jeff, who back in the wilderness actually was going out with Shauna's friend. So that's a bit of backstory there. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff going on here, but it's really brilliantly done. There's some quite weird kind of supernatural stuff. That there's one character who she ran out of her drugs to kind of treat her schizophrenia in the wilderness, of course. And so strange things started to happen, almost like strange visions. It's quite interesting to see what happens to her in her adult life. So I will definitely go back and watch series 1 of this because I think it's absolutely great. And also, which we trailed last week, but he doesn't feature in episode 1, but Elijah Wood, the wonderful Elijah Wood of Hobbit fame, he's going to be joining the cast as Walter, who, like Misty, the outsider, is a kind of amateur detective. So yeah, there's all sorts of stuff going on. There's sort of rehab, and there's this weird, almost like a cult group as well. There's an unhappy family life. There's a politician who's doing terrible things. It's all going on. It's a brilliant conceit, I must say. It's absolutely fantastic. So it was, I was recommended it, and it certainly lived up to expectations and more. What did you think, Hannah?
I enjoyed it. I like you, think you absolutely need to see what happened before. You can catch up, but you really need to have the setting, I suppose, of where this starts. I think it sounds really complicated when we're talking about it, and I suppose it kind of is because there's these two different timelines jumping to and from, and I think that it if you don't know the backgrounds of each of these people, then you've got to play catch up, and it can be tricky. As I say, I think if you watch the first series, you know those characters inside out, and you know the secrets and what have you. But I don't think it is as difficult to or as complicated as perhaps we're making it sound, in as much as I find it very interesting, that how people behave after. I mean, okay, it's not real, it's a thriller, it's kind of scary in places, but the idea that how that changes you, an event in your life can change you so much, and then how that kind of affects your course of life, I suppose, and that's what's playing out in this. So I kind of find the whole thing really interesting. It's really duplicitous. There's loads of lies. There's loads of things that you kind of are trying to work out, and other people are trying to work out within it. And I definitely think it's worth a watch. I think it's really well done.
Okay, over on Apple TV Plus, we have a new music talent show also arriving on Friday the 24th. It's called My Kind of Country, and here's a clip.
We got together a long time ago. We were talking about how country music should stop limiting people and start opening doors. It's music brought over from all over the world.
The bluegrass, the folk, the gospel. There's so many threads woven through country music.
This is My Kind of Country, a music competition that travels the globe to break the next country music star.
We've had Pop Idol, we've had X Factor, we've had about every kind of music talent show going, but this is a country music talent show produced by Reese Witherspoon. And it's funny because I actually, it doesn't really matter what the music is, or when we've talked before about documentaries particularly, you kind of get involved very quickly in the music, and you learn something, and I know we both enjoy them. This is different because I'm not a huge fan of country music, but I don't dislike it either. And I'm meeting and I work in the world of celebrity, and I'm meeting loads of different people that I sort of didn't know existed. And I suppose what this does, it kind of really challenges all the questions. When you think of country musicians, you might think of sort of very white people. Not so, and it challenges all of those misconceptions, really. And I think it's got a different edge to it, because despite it being a talent show and having those same kind of, for want of a better term, sob stories, and the difficulties, the path of difficulty to get to the stage and all that kind of stuff, that's all there, yes, but it has this kind of edge to it, and you're learning something about country music, which is just such, it's got such a following, and it's just so, as we know, absolutely huge. And the prize being that the person who wins will get a deal with Apple Music, which is just, obviously this is on Apple TV, so this is just such a really, really big thing. And I can see this just becoming utterly huge because there are so many country fans, and they're finding a new country star. So yeah, it does what it says on the tin, nothing more, nothing less. But I think really, really very good. What did you think, Ian?
I liked it. I am a country music fan, particularly Steve Earle, I love, and Nancy Griffith. So I did enjoy it. And music talent shows on TV, there tends to be quite a lot of fluff and BS, if I'm allowed to say that. You don't get all that with this format. So it starts off, the first few episodes, each of the three judges, I guess, it is putting on a showcase. They've chosen 4 musicians. So we start off with this guy, Jimmy Allen, who is a black country music star. It's a bit incongruous. He's driving a tractor in his kind of trendy leather outfit at the beginning of it, which looks a bit weird. Anyway, he's chosen a singer from Mexico who's very much rooted in traditional Mexican music. Then you've got a guy from New Delhi in India who plays a sort of percussive style of guitar. You've got an American female singer who's very much kind of come up through the gospel tradition. And then a guy from South Africa who's a bit more rocky. And yeah, what they have to do is, each of them in this first episode, they have to do a cover version of a famous country music song. One of them does a Cat Stevens. I didn't really know the other ones. And what's good is they don't tease any of the performances until they actually do the performance. And the quality of musicianship is really, really high. There's also one of the judges. I thought, who's that guy who's got a mask on, who's sort of hanging around in the background? He's this gay country singer called Orville Peck. I think that's his stage name. Who never ever shows his face. He always wears a mask. So I was quite intrigued by that because I didn't feel they introduced the series properly at the beginning. But anyway, I don't particularly like the music talent shows that we get in the UK, but I did like this, and I think you'll be amazed at just the high quality of musicianship. It's great. Bit of comedy coming up for you now on BBC iPlayer. It's the return of the cleaner, and here's a clip.
What the hell happened? Someone chopped his head off. Get out!
Can you clean it or not?
All right, Midsummer Murders, keep your clogs on. Where should we go?
So many characters around here.
You poke me again. You won't need that red nose.
Adorable.
What? Fun's over. Clean up time.
So as you well know, Hannah, I'm a big Greg Davies fan. Man Down, Cuckoo, Taskmaster. It's all good stuff. Well, this is the return of his comedy series. He plays the cleaner of the title, Paul Wiki Wickstead, and his job is he basically cleans up crime scenes. It's, quite a kind of grisly premise, but it's very ingenious because, of course, it gives him a new setting in each episode and a new group of characters to interact with. And I often say this about people, but Davies has funny bones. There's no question about it. I absolutely just love watching him, especially watching him react to strange characters, which he does a lot in this series. So as we rejoin the action, Wiki, he's got a younger girlfriend, and as a result, he's got trendy new glasses and he's wearing an earring. Kind of reminds me when Harrison Ford started wearing that earring. Do you remember that? Anyway, this first case, there's been a fight in a pub, so there's blood everywhere, and you've got Dame Harriet Walter is playing the landlady, and she's absolutely terrific. It's a great guest starring role from her. It's really, really funny. We're going to get some later in the series. We're going to get Shakin' Stevens because he does get the old celebrity guests in. But yeah, I remember when I watched the first episode of Man Down, it starts with Greg Davies' character singing a song to his girlfriend. And in this episode, there's a hilarious bit at the end where while drunk, he's made a kind of home video of him miming to I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight by Cutting Crew. And it is absolutely hilarious. So I love Greg Davies. He co-writes this. and I love this. It's a really good laugh. What did you think, Hannah?
Yeah, it's really funny, and you know how much I like a belly laugh. I absolutely do. It is absolutely great. And you're so right about the Harrison Ford thing, but it sort of was applicable. We talk about this a lot at home when some of our friends get a younger girlfriend or boyfriend and that person tries to change them a bit and their style suddenly changes, and then the skinny jeans come in, maybe a couple of tighter tops, and the hair changes. And I think that's the thing that has been done here. It's kind of like, it's really relatable, and you kind of pick up on things that genuinely happens in real life. It's just funny, and all the different jobs he does, and all the silliness that goes along the way. This is definitely one in a world of a lot of misery right now to tune into, I'd say.
We're going to finish on Netflix with a 3-part documentary series. It's called Waco, American Apocalypse, arriving a little bit earlier on Wednesday the 22nd of March. And here's a clip.
The ultimate goal was to arrest David Koresh and to seize all of the illegal weapons.
911, what's your emergency? 75 men around our building and they're shooting at us at Mount Carmel. Tell them there are children and women in here to call it off.
Wow, this is just wow, really. It's obviously, again, we talk about this a lot, but kind of events happen. And I think because they're so atrocious, you almost, if you're like me, sort of compartmentalize them and think, okay, this is so awful, but I can't keep thinking about this because it's just so upsetting. This is kind of one of those things that we all knew about. Well, not for very, very young people, but a lot of people knew about. It's something part of history. That they have made into this very, very hard-hitting documentary. And it's done with the music is impactful. It's so kind of shocking. But of course, it is shocking because this is unseen FBI footage and is a docuseries that marks the 30th anniversary of the standoff between the US government agents and the religious cult, the branch Davidians. Yeah. And I didn't know much about this sort of self-proclaimed Messiah, David Koresh. But again, you hear him talking in this. It brings it to life. It brings to life that awful day where they came against each other. And if you're not somebody who, I don't know, maybe you're not easily led if you're in a cult. I don't know. I've never been in one. But I find it fascinating. These people really did believe that he was the Messiah. They'd have done everything. And the atrocities that went on in there, the FBI talk about the fact that he would have had sex with children. Just awful, awful stuff that's going on in there has been brought to life in this. And I found it really shocking. As I say, it brought back it was a trip down memory lane, not in a good way, but it kind of, you remember it and takes you right back to that time. And I just think when they managed to put something like this together, okay, they've done it in a really dramatic fashion, but actually it was dramatic. It obviously set in Texas was when it happened, where it happened. And it looks at whether of so many people could have been avoided, because it really was a standoff. They had sort of got loads of artillery. They were ready to fight the US government, fight the police, and they believed it was, to give them eternal life, if you like. And it's just quite incredible. I found it very captivating, very moving, and very shocking, despite knowing the story. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, it's very interesting, I must say. And the footage of the siege itself is remarkable. And it is like something out of a war. And as you say, Koresh and his followers had amassed this huge arsenal of really powerful weapons and loads of ammunition. And that's why originally the cops turned up, was to investigate the fact that they thought they had lots of machine guns and so on. And then there was this standoff. And I mean, yeah, the brainwashing that goes on in these cults is terrifying. And they have testimony from people who were part of the cult who still believe in that Koresh was the second coming of Jesus. And you've got cops who were involved in the siege as well. And as often happens with these cults, the leader somehow always ends up getting to sleep with everyone else's wife, which is what Koresh did. But he was clearly a very charismatic guy. But I think he was always kind of building towards having a big standoff with the establishment, and that's why he was building this huge arsenal of weapons. I think that was his end game anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's just staggering. Sure, they went in like incredibly heavy-handed. My goodness. And watching the footage is absolutely staggering. But yeah, a fascinating reminder of a very, very strange chapter in American history.
I thought it was interesting as well, just to mention them interviewing some of the survivors. I thought that was really interesting too.
Absolutely. Well, we've got to that time, Hannah, where we find out what you've been binging on this week. So please reveal all.
Well, he's been making the headlines, of course, Jeremy Clarkson. I watched Clarkson's Farm. It was because we had some friends over for dinner and they said, you know what? It's really good, that show, and we're not supposed to like him, are we? So I said, well, I'm gonna go and watch it again myself. And also, my mum went to do Diddley Squat Farm Shop, and she said it was very muddy and there was a very huge queue. So there we go.
Love it. Well, I, of course, have been watching Celebrity Bake Off, which is great. And talking of cults, there's a very good documentary series on Netflix called Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, which is all about Warren Jeffs and the fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now, we've just got time to look ahead to next week's offering. So what are we going to be talking about, Hannah?
Logan Roy and his scheming children battle for power in the final season of the brilliant family drama Succession on Sky Atlantic and Now TV.
And Kiefer Sutherland plays a corporate spy who's hunted for a crime he didn't commit in Rabbit Hole on Paramount Plus. So we look forward to those and more, but in the meantime,
keep watching.